These, these are not the real deal, and I'm going to show you why. Today we're diving into a staple of Jamaican cooking, browning. This sauce is the secret behind many of our rich, flavorful dishes, and the best part, it's incredibly versatile and simple to make. So simple it only requires 2 ingredients. Hey, I'm Nick and I will be showing you not just one but 3 different types of browning. Plus, I'll cover some common mistakes I see people make along the way. On medium heat, start with 1 cup of brown sugar and let it caramelize. For all its complexity, browning is nothing more than caramelized sugar. Brown sugar contains molasses which gives the browning deeper, more complex flavors. White sugar makes a good browning too, but it's a more straightforward, clean caramel flavor that lacks the depth you get with brown sugar. Once the sugar starts melting, reduce the heat to prevent it from burning. Low heat slows down caramelization so you can have better control over the results. You might see people recommend non-stick pans, but that's not the safest method. The sugar gets crazy hot and that could damage the non-stick coating and release harmful chemicals. Sure, non-stick pans are easier to clean, but I'll show you a simple cleanup trick later. When it's closed, the sugar will start to get light and frothy and the color will rapidly get darker. You want a deep caramel, almost black color, and it should be smoking. That looks good, so I'm going to kill the heat and add half cup water. The aim now is to dissolve all the caramelized sugar into the water. Turning the fire back on helps the sugar dissolve better. You might wonder why I didn't add salt. I like to keep my browning as is so it doesn't throw off my recipes. You can add salt if you prefer, but I find it more versatile without it. At this point the browning will be thin and runny because it's very hot. Pour that off into its final container. This is not my final container, it's just mostly for visuals. This is the typical browning. Very dark, little to none of the sweetness of the sugar left, a lot of bitter notes and very delicious smoky flavor. I like to use this browning for savory recipes like some old-time brown stew chicken or brown stew fish. It adds richness and depth to dishes, it's incredible. It's also great in jerk season and adds so much to a pot of rice and peas. The most daunting part of making browning is cleanup. There's a simple solution for that. Simply place your pan back onto the fire, add some water and dissolve the sugars before washing. Traditionally a spent can like this one, maybe even bigger, was used to make browning outdoors on wood fire. Burnt sugar is notoriously hard to remove and a wood fire doesn't give you the same level of control as a stove. So the workaround was to use utensils you could throw away when you were done. A can and a stick were perfect for that. Let me know down in the comments how you made your browning. Before we move on to the next 2 types of browning, let's talk about the commercial stuff. First off, these do their job. Most people use browning for its color, not so much for flavor, so you can usually find a brand that gives great color. Some are better than others, but even my favorite brand falls way short of homemade browning. A quick look at the ingredients reveal it's just water, caramel coloring, a thickener and some preservatives. Despite having more ingredients, it lacks the range and complexity of flavor that homemade browning has. Commercial browning is way more popular, so drop your favorite brand down in the comments. The next browning is the exact same procedure with the same 2:1 sugar to water ratio. With this one I will be adding the water a bit earlier, after it gets frothy and has a deep amber color. It almost looks the same as the first browning we made after the water is added. It looks similar but the flavor is very different. This browning is balanced between bitter and sweet but still has all the complex flavors of the first one we made. This is great for adding depth of flavor and color to sweets like pastries like fruit cakes or spice buns. For the final browning, we are going to caramelize the sugar a lot less than the first two. I'm simply trying to dissolve all the sugar and not let it get frothy. You might see browning recipes telling you to use hot water, keeping a pot close by to just pour some in when the browning is ready. It's said that hot water creates a less violent reaction when you add it. I've tested this with this last browning and my can browning and found that to be false. Hot water is way more violent, sometimes making the browning bubble over. The first two I made were with room temperature water and those are more chill, so I'm sticking with cold water from now. Not all the sugar was dissolved properly. This browning is more of a sweet caramel. It's the opposite of the first browning we made. Very sweet with little to no bitter notes, but it still has that complex flavor. It's very similar to honey. This is perfect for mixed drinks like this glass of limeade or a glaze for something like roast meats. It adds a more nuanced sweetness to whatever you add it to. Homemade browning, even the darkest one, still has a rich amber hue. Compare that with the commercial stuff, which is almost always black. Stored properly in an airtight container in a cool dark place, browning will last over 6 months. Stored in the fridge, it lasts even longer, over a year. Just make sure the container is well sealed to prevent moisture and other contaminants from affecting its quality. You can easily and cheaply make a year's supply of browning in one cooking session. Another testament to its versatility. A workaround for adding browning is to caramelize the sugar in oil before cooking your food. I've done this in many of my videos. While it can be a great technique, it does take some practice and good intuition to get just right. Judging the right amount of sugar can be challenging. Add the food too early and it can turn out too sweet, way too long and it may end up bitter. I use this method when I don't already have pre-made browning, and it's also preferred in some instances, like when making sauces. With a bit of patience and experimentation, this method can add a unique depth of flavor to your dishes. There you go, 3 different brownings with a wide range of applications. Next, let's test out 2 of them. Browning is great for adding depth of flavor to vegetables. Season simply with salt and pepper, a splash of oil. This is green season. I have a really detailed video on how to make this. It's linked in the description. I need about a tablespoon of that. This is the bittersweet browning, the second one we made. Give that a really good drizzle. Toss everything together and mix well. While these roast, they develop a rich, savory caramelized taste. I'm also going to make a classic Jamaican brown stew chicken. I got a few chicken legs. I like using darker meat for stews. Season with salt and pepper, as well as a couple tablespoons of green seasoning. Finally add browning. This is the first one we made, the standard dark browning. Give that a quick massage to mix everything. If the color isn't satisfactory, just add a bit more. Be careful though, because too much will make your chicken bitter. That's a really nice color and exactly what you want. It will get dark as we cook it. Let that marinate for at least 30 minutes. To make brown stew, we have to first brown the chicken. Once browned sufficiently, we can add the liquids. Start with the marinade this was left in. A little more green seasoning won't hurt. A little splash of soya sauce. A few big splashes of ketchup. And finally a splash of water. I like to rinse out my bowl to not waste any of that flavor. Cover and simmer until the chicken gets tender. A good indication that the chicken legs are done is that the meat pulls away from the bones. That is it. This is a quick, delicious meal that shows the versatility of browning. Let me know down in the comments if I miss anything. Will you be making browning from now on? This was great. Thanks for stopping by and I will catch you in the next one.